today we have Sohil with us. Just like every weekend, this is one of the session where we talk about the learning journey, interview experiences of an alumni that we all can look up to. For that, we have Sohil today. There is little variance in profile. So far, we had many people with many years of career break, people who come with no tech background. Sohil has slightly different journey. Sohil had tech background. He had, however, he had a telecom background in which he had spent many years, and then he has transitioned to a data scientist role, not a data analyst role. So different variations of journeys, success journeys, but not a masterclass. We will not be touching on one specific topic today, but we'll be looking at the entire journey of Sohil, how he studied, how he learned, how he prepared for the interviews, and what strategy helped him transition over from telecom domain to data science domain. I'll start with a quick introduction of Sohil. So Sohil, he did his engineering, Sohil, correct me if I'm wrong, back in 2019 with electronics and communication. And then additionally, post that, Sohil started in the telecom domain itself, right? Working at Ericsson as a network engineer. But Sohil, of course, wanted to make a transition to data science. Sohil, I'll ask you that what motivated you soon after. And then in between, he did an internship in data science, and then he transitioned to Brillio as a data scientist. So today, Sohil is working on very cutting edge things, working on use cases of natural language processing, generative AI, etc. So on a high level, this is Sohil's journey have been. Sohil, over to you. If you can tell us a little bit about, I think very beginning, when you joined college, what was your career goals? Then after college, when you were working at Ericsson, what the work experience was? How did you discover that you would rather want to transition to data science, and what was the reason behind that? And then we'll talk about your learning journey as well, right? And then, of course, your applying to different companies, interview process. And lastly, but most important, I think that what your experience as a data scientist at Brillio have been. What kind of challenges it throws at you, how you tackle them, right? So I think this entire end-to-end journey will be very, very useful. Often it gets very concentrated on just the interviews, but it's very, very important that we give enough attention and focus to all the steps of the journey and all the building blocks, right? So over to you. Let's start with your journey right after you finished school and started your engineering education.
Sure, Emmanuel. Hi everyone. My name is Sohil Sharma. I completed my graduation in electronics and communication engineering. I did pursued my BTech in electronics and communication engineering in 2019. So straight after 2019, I got a job opportunity as a network engineer from Ericsson Global India Private Limited. From 2019 till October 2023, I've been working there as a network engineer, and it was around March 2022 that I joined Scale Up, and I decided at that time to pursue my career to make a transition towards data science. The reason that I decided to make a switch to pursue my interest towards data science was that earlier I had a keen interest towards the electronics and communication sector, and how things worked over there. But the only drawback was there wasn't much growth into it. Learning these things in your college books is one thing, but when you actually go to the industrial phase, when you actually start working on these components, telecom domain, there are different technical things, like you work on 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, these things. Although these things are in very much high demand, the customer requirements are not very much. There is not much growth. There is not much to learn from employee perspective. So I saw these things, and also I saw that, irrespective of, which domain you're working on, these skills like, coding and, designing automations and all these things are required in irrespective of which sector you're working in. That's when I thought that, if I have to make myself visible to any company, it doesn't matter in which company I'm working on, I need to have those critical skills that are needed. But at that time, I was thinking that, coding is something that I've never done. So I wasn't very much sure that, whether I will be able to do that hard level of coding that other software engineers can do or not. During that time only, I got to know that there is a domain coming up called data science. It's not just about coding, where you also require some, mathematics. You also require all these probability statistics, these concepts, which are very much critical in your business decisions. And since college, I've been very fond of mathematics. So that's when I thought, why not to just start looking up for data science, what exactly goes in data science. At that time only, when I saw some master classes at Scale Up, joined one or two master classes to understand how things go, what really is data science, how things are being taught, what components lie in data science. It was around that part only in early 2022 saw these master classes. Apart from that, it was around March 2022 that I finally decided, after a couple of discussions with my family and friends, that I decided to make a transition to data science by learning from Scale Up. So it's been almost 2 years now. Yeah. At the end of my course, almost I started getting some of companies during my from career portal, and I just applied at one of the companies there as for data scientist role. After like one online round, two tech rounds, and one HR round, I cleared all those rounds, and now I'm here in front of you as a data scientist.
Fantastic. Sohil, so I will, one thing that like almost all the people who I have hosted so far, one very strong correlation, whether I would say 100% correlation, I have seen is with extremely strong adherence to the program. Like you have close to 100% attendance, you have close to 100% assignment, PSP, you have done all the mock interviews, and this is something that I have seen with everyone who I have hosted so far. And sure, some might have 95%, some might have 98%, some might have 94%, but more or less, it's always rooted in very strong consistency, right? Which, along with, of course, you have been a working professional as well. I'm sure there are plenty of work, like responsibilities at home also we need to manage, right? I would first want you to talk about that. How did you manage the workload, and like approximately how many hours were you spending every day? What kind of schedule you maintain to make sure that there is no backlog being created, or if at all any backlog was getting created, how did you kind of manage that? Because in your data itself, in your mock interview rating, I can see that you have built very strong skills, which that is exactly what led to being able to kind of get to a very aspirational company like Brillio. So if you could talk about your journey on this.
Obviously, like how many hours you can devote into your studies, it's all dependent on how many hours you get out of your free time, apart from working as a full-time professional, right? When you're working as a full-time professional, then you have to try your best to serve there. And as well as when you're studying from Scalar, then you have to give your best efforts to study what Scalar is being teaching you. The fundamental thing that I can tell to all the learners is to be consistent from day one, because you never know what if you missed even a single lecture. Maybe that one lecture, if you were prepared well, interviewer might ask you this topics around that same lecture maybe a couple of months later. So you have to be very much consistent with your efforts each and every day. Okay, and even if you have backlogs, then you have just to take out the time. Sometimes, like I have seen this myself, that sometimes not been able to balance things out with respect to both my scalar and my professional journey. So these things, sometimes that synchronization doesn't match up. Sometimes I'm focusing more towards scalar learning. Sometimes I'm focusing more towards my full-time professional journey. But the one thing is that if you are always, consistent from day one, then you won't have that issue of, facing these huge backlogs in the end at the time of placement. Then you will start wondering that, okay, I have so much backlog that I have to study. These are so many mock interviews that I have to clear. Mock module tests. So module tests are obviously they're all only held during the end of the module. It's not like that you can go and do it again, but you have to clear the module test. You have to also do the business cases. So you can't do everything at the end, or you can't do at one phase of your entire scalar journey. It's not like that. You have to be consistent throughout. In my entire DSML module journey, there are some modules which are very easy to learn. There are some modules which are very hard to learn, right? So if let's just say I'm learning SQL, or if I'm learning Python beginners module, so these are modules which I'm not saying that they are not important, but they will require less time in comparison to those complex modules like deep learning, neural network, computer vision. And for someone like me who has never even learned, machine learning, who has never even learned how neural networks, what is this computer vision and all, right? Depending on the module that you're learning, depending on the importance that you want to give to the module, how much that module will play a part in your career, you have to give time to it. I never had an aspiration to become a data analyst. I always wanted to become a data scientist. So because machine learning I had a lot of interest towards machine learning. Accordingly, like I had to revise those concepts again and again. I had to revise these neural network concepts again and again, because I knew that when I will be giving the interviews, there are less chances for interview to ask questions on me regarding business analytics compared to deep learning or NLP. So accordingly, whatever modules, subjects you want to build a career on, so you have to give time to it accordingly. If I made the notes, then I'm revising them again and again, because these things, machine learning, deep learning, are something that you have never learned before. So for those people who have never learned, revising these concepts is very much crucial.
I will just pick up Disha's question here, which is very relevant to what you are speaking about, which is how to maintain balance between current module and revision of the previous modules.
Yes, so that's a good question. And I had a lot of issues with this thing, Disha, to be very frank with you, because I have seen this one pain point, which is, I think, almost every scalar learner must have gone through, is that you are learning one module, the module test or the business case that you are solving is of previous module, and the expert mock interview that you are about to give is of one module, which is even before that. This thing has happened with me in loop. Okay, as the scalar journey is going on, so this pain point is something that has gone with me on and on. So I think the best way to avoid this is, see, first of all, whatever current module is being taught to you, you have to make sure to get some time to revise it. Because the reason is very simple. Whatever current module you're going through, someday, maybe 1 month later or maybe 1.5 months later, you will be giving a expert mock interview out of it, or you will be about to give attempt a business case out of it. Expert mock interviews, I think, are the most important things, because they are the direct things that will directly affect your placements. Every company has their own bars that you need to clear them. Expert mock interviews, whether it's a weak hire or strong hire, doesn't matter, it should be higher. So balance between current module and vision of previous modules, I think it's all about time, Disha. If you can just get that time out of work, that's the only thing that matters.
So another follow-up question I had was that approximately how much time were you devoting when the live classes were going on in a week, if I may say, and how was the distribution? Were you studying every day for, let's say, few hours, or were you keeping more time on the weekends? What kind of a strategy worked better for you?
I think it was a mix of both, Abhimanyu. So I used to study almost every day. Okay, but obviously, like since in weekends we don't have our office work, so in weekends we get to devote more time. But at the same time, you have to make sure that your efforts are consistent. Let's just say in your weekends you're making sure to learn something new. Then in your weekdays that's about to come, or in your weekdays that went previously, you can revise some previous module.
One thing that I would emphasize on to everyone is, again, this is something common that I have seen across most people who have built strong skills and transitioned to a good role, that consistency every day is very, very critical. Almost all of them mentioned that I have seen some people rather thinking ki, on the weekdays I will probably escape, I will only do classes, and like the rest of the work I will not do on the weekdays, and I'll try to cover up on the weekends alone. Anyone in this group who have met that plan, don't do that. You must keep some time every day and use weekend more to revise things, or cover everything that might have still gotten left. But if you make a plan that on the weekdays I will only attend the classes and on the weekend I'll cover the assignments, it will be very difficult. It is actually, let's accept to ourselves, it is procrastination. It is not really needed, right? So as Sujan said, eat, sleep, practice every day. Second thing that Sohil emphasized multiple times, that I will, given most of the people here might be in a role already, maybe data science or data analyst or not related to tech. But it's important that you realize and ensure that your performance at job is not compromised in any form, because you do not want to make sure that there is a cut there. And if you make a good plan, then you definitely can balance out both. These two are the key inputs I will suggest from what Pritam has suggested. Like on your profile, I noticed that in between you had also done an internship in data science. Tell us about how did that internship added value. So through the scalar course, you were learning all the fundamental skills, but how was your experience of doing internship? Would you recommend people who are planning to transition from a non-data science domain to data science domain to also go through a internship in between? What value did the internship add?
It all depends on multiple factors, Abhimanyu. So at that time when I pursued this internship, so my scalar journey was just beginning. At that time, whatever modules were being covered, they were simple modules, they were easy modules in comparison to machine learning and all. So at that time, the modules that were covered were probability statistics and Python beginner. So all these modules, like probability statistics, since I said that since college I had a lot of interest towards mathematics, so I knew fundamentals of probability-based theorem and all these things. So at that time, I thought that, and since I didn't have much of a project deliveries at that time, so I thought that why not see some other things, how I can increase my data science experience, because I'm a complete fresher. So I need to increase my experience. So at that time only, I saw this online data science internship. So it was completely, unpaid. So, but the only thing that there was that I got to learn a lot, which I knew that Scalar will be teaching me ahead. So if let's just say in that internship, they taught me one or two things about linear regression, which is an algorithm in machine learning. They taught me that, okay, these things happen from a surface level. But in Scalar, I got to know about these algorithms in depth. It's like that internship prepared me for what I'm about to see at Scalar. So I think that way internship helped me. And regarding recommending people to do an internship, I think it's all dependent on you. Even if you do an internship, there is no guarantee that you will land up a job, a very good job, because these days companies don't see an internship as a relevant experience. They only see whatever work you have done, whatever projects you have done. Only they count as in your experience. So I did an internship for my knowledge sake, but it's all subjective to people whether they want to pursue it or not.
No, it's very interesting, Sohil. My personal experience has been that if it is a part-time online internship, it definitely helps. Probably making your resume look more relevant. Okay, Harshal has mentioned one very interesting point in the chat that I'll pick up, which is there are many scams going on in the market about someone asking for the money and offer internship. 100% aligned to that, guys. Absolutely never ever fall for such things. Anyone offering you internship by asking for money, anyone asking for money to even provide fake job experience certificates, etc., these are all scams. They add no value, so never fall for them. Some organization might provide unpaid, which is okay. Evaluate for the quality of work. If quality of work is good, it will help you build a good profile. Sohil, could you tell us about your interview experiences? How many companies did you interview with, or even let's say online test of the companies for data scientist role? What kind of roles and rounds of interviews? What did you see companies expecting from you?
Currently, I'm a data scientist at Brillio Technologies. So before Brillio, I had given around online tests and interviews for I guess 2-3 more companies. So they have been both from Scalar and outside of Scalar, both. If I talk about my interview experience at Brillio, so initially I had one online test that consisted of both MCQ questions as well as some coding questions from NumPy Panda. So NumPy Panda is basically some basic libraries that you use for your data analysis skills. I guess around 30 to 40 questions from MCQ questions. And those MCQ questions were mostly towards machine learning and neural networks. So those people who know, these things, machine learning, deep learning, I think they should be good to go. After that, I had my first tech round. In my first tech round, also, they asked me a lot of questions regarding machine learning, neural networks. They asked me some coding questions on Python. They asked me one question on SQL. They also asked me questions regarding my projects that I mentioned in my resume. I had some project links in my resume. So they opened that side by side. I was explaining my project, and side by side, the interviewer was able to get a brief overview of what my project looked like. Apart from that, there were some questions on time series analysis that were also a part of machine learning only. In my second tech round, many questions were asked regarding natural language processing that comes under deep learning. There were not many coding questions in second round. All the coding questions were there only in first round. A lot of discussions were towards basic simple concepts of machine learning, what like underfitting, overfitting. Can you explain the bias variance trade-off? Can you explain these algorithms? Can you explain logistic regression, KNN from scratch? What are the loss functions that are there available in these algorithms? So these were the questions that were asked to me, Abhimanyu, and just after a couple these interviews, I had my HR round.
Fantastic. Guys, one thing I would re-emphasize is that this experience is for the data scientist role, right? For the data analyst role, data scientist role is a superset of data analyst role, right? So as Sohil mentioned that in the very first round, he was asked questions on SQL and Python, which generally becomes the most of the part for a data analyst role. And in his further rounds, round 2 and round 3, the topics that he talked about, RNN, NLP, etc., these are generally not asked in the data analyst role. Those are only asked in the data science roles, right? So given in data science course, it's a kind of diverse community. Many of you might be targeting towards data analyst role because you might not have any tech background. So for those roles, it is not necessary to focus on these concepts right away, right? Once you get into data analyst role, then you can transition to data scientist role after that. But of course, your MySQL knowledge on MySQL and Python is absolutely necessary for even becoming a successful data scientist. So consider it this way, that becoming a data analyst is your first foundation building block, right? And then on top of that, you need to build more skills to become a data scientist, right? Rekha has written that Sohil seems to be from tech background, and also he had past data science internship. People who come from non-tech background do not research. Rekha, that's exactly the point. Sohil, because of coming from a tech background, he was able to target data scientist role already. So this session will be more relevant for people who are targeting data scientist roles, right? For people who come from absolute no tech background, data analyst is the right role to target, where you will have to focus more on MySQL and Python and data visualization techniques along with business case studies. While data scientist role is slightly different, where it is more related to advanced tech concepts.
I still remember, like before my interview at Brillio, I gave an interview for another company. It was a startup, and the only reason that I was rejected in that interview, like everything was good, but they just asked me one question and I got rejected. They just wanted to see if I had any previous relevant experience on MLOps. Because that requirement was for a client location, and they just wanted one guy to single-handedly handle all the data pipelines. So since I didn't have any experience in MLOps, so I got rejected. So these days, all the aspirants will also see one thing, that if you're aspiring for data science, then MLOps is also one thing that companies will ask. And I can tell you from my experience that even right now, when I'm working as a data scientist, MLOps knowledge of MLOps is very much critical. You cannot work without MLOps when you're working in an industry, because everything happens on cloud. Your deployment of applications, your data cleaning, your data pre-processing, how your data comes up. Your data is coming in the form of BigQuery in your GCP. And then accordingly, you use your GCP Vertex AI to work on your deployments. And it all depends on what cloud you're working on. Personally, I would recommend working on AWS, because I think AWS is the most easiest tool to work with. When you complete your module in Scalar in MLOps, so I think Scalar also provides the credentials for AWS. So I think that way also, like AWS would be the best cloud tool for you to work on.
Another question that many people had asked, Sohil, was that at your job, now that you are working as a data scientist already, what does your day-to-day task look like? Are you still using, are you using Python heavily, or do you see yourself using MySQL heavily, or are you generally working more on model side? What does a typical day look like? What kind of challenges do you see, or what keeps you excited every day about what you are building?
Yes, Abhimanyu. So yes, definitely Python is being used. There is no way that you can work without Python, if you're being called a data scientist. So it's not very much mandatory to work on MySQL. SQL, if you're a data scientist, SQL is something that mostly data engineers work with. As a data scientist, I have to work with upcoming machine learning models, upcoming LLM models. So there is no other way without working with Python. I still remember, like, one of my use cases was to work on a LLM model using Google Bard. So that way, like, since Google Bard is these functionalities are something that are only present in Python only as of now. So I have to work on Python. Some projects have a lot of dependency on you to work on Python. Some projects don't have much. Some projects have less dependency on you. They don't require you to code much. They just require you to validate whether the outputs that you're getting, are they correct or not. If you have some feedbacks, maybe you can give them. And obviously, like, the thing that excites me the most is that that I get to work with many senior people who have been in data science industry for more than 7 years now. So getting knowledge from them and whatever work they have done, and accordingly have some conversations with them as well.
Got it. I see this question from Rajni, which was related to one. You talked about MLOps, right? So Rajni's question was, how do you compare between MLOps on cloud versus in-house MLOps? Which to some extent you answered that on cloud, I think, is important, on AWS, Azure, etc. And second part, Rajni is asking that is Kubernetes, MLflow, Airflow, are these topics important? How do you think about these topics?
So in ML Ops, I have studied things. I have studied about ML flow, but I have never studied Kubernetes and Airflow as of now. And even in my current profile, I have not used these tech stacks as of now.
So Rajni, I'll add to that these specific stats, like given there are so many and they keep evolving at a very fast pace as well. Particularly in the domain of data science, every year there are probably new and better such platforms keep evolving. So this should be kept more of that when you are working on a project as per the need of the project, what is the right one. But of course, understanding the foundations of ML ops, that how do data pipelines work, etc., that is definitely helpful. Because generally companies would not seek that whether, let's say specifically whether you have used Airflow or not. Because if your fundamentals are strong, you would be able to pick it up. Right? But of course, you need to express that confidence that I might not have used this specific one, but wherever needed, I can discover it, work on it. Mohammed has a question, which is, now that you are working as a data scientist, how much of, say, object-oriented programming, functional programming, or even data structures and algorithms you are able to relate? And I'll break it into two parts, Sohil. One part is that how many of these you directly use versus some of these might be where you can relate that you are able to solve this problem because you have a strong foundation in these. So in both the parts, can you tell us that object-oriented programming, functional programming, data structures and algorithm, how do you relate them fitting into your technical work?
As per my experience, as of now, I haven't had much use of OOPS and DSA as of this moment. But see, this is only limited to my opinion. I have seen many people who are senior data scientists at some different companies, but although they are data scientists, but their only job is to optimize the codes using all these knowledge of DSA and dynamic programming, these things. As of my role, as of now, I haven't luckily faced these issues on OOPS and optimizing the codes. So yeah.
I would say other way around. I hope that you quickly get an opportunity to solve those complex problems because it always kind of elevates you. It gives you an opportunity to solve problems which are very, very critical for the business and helps you grow much faster. But Mohammed and everyone else, I'll re-emphasize that, see, once when we are building skills and when we are in corporate, to be candid, 80% of the work is not extremely complex, right? But 10-20%, which is complex, which only those who are really strong with these fundamentals would be able to solve, and other people will not be able to solve. That is where the entire difference gets created. That are you very highly valued member of the organization, or are you just someone who could be easily replaced by someone? Second is that, as Sohil was saying, that whenever it comes about optimizing things, that is where these get very, very critical. And of course, given it's just the very beginning of Sohil, so very possible that you have not gotten exposure to this yet. But I wish and hope for you that you get even more harder, challenging problems to solve very soon, which I'm sure you will with that strong foundation. All right. There's a little bit of a sensitive question from Sagar, but of course, I'm sure everyone is curious about it. And Sohil, I will leave it up to you in what format you want to answer that, maybe in sense of ratios, etc. But what kind of salaries did you see while in non-data science roles versus in data science roles?
Yeah, so like when I was there in my previous organization as a non-data science role, so at that time the increments weren't very much, but like after jumping to data scientist role, I can tell you like my salary has almost doubled, but like obviously like I'm looking more to such opportunities. So yeah.
In general, Sagar and everyone else, data science as a field is a field where the growth rate is also very high. Of course, it depends on your performance and your knowledge. We are already seeing that inflection point in the world where so much more work is getting done by these intelligent systems. And ultimately, even if we talk about ChatGPT or Bard or Gemini or many such, cloud, all of these are basically built by data scientists like Sohil and probably many of you in future. So it's a domain where the growth rate is extremely high if you have strong skills and if you keep adding that kind of value. Like, data is the new oil. And of course, if you are getting into a domain which is going to be the powerhouse like oil, as long as you are adding value, the growth rate will be very, very good. Next question I'll pick up from Tarun, which is, other than scalar case studies, did you also do case studies on Kaggle or any other source? So basically, apart from, let's say, of course, first thing, everyone, that Sohil just before the call was sharing with me, that the curriculum Scalar has is sufficient. But of course, it does not mean that your learning stops here. Do not get distracted if you have a lot of pending backlog, if you have mock interviews to finish, first finish them, because that's your very focused set of learning to do. Once that is done, of course, you should keep competing, keep creating your online profile at multiple places. So Sohil, can you share that? Were you also doing any other case studies apart from case studies that are done at Scalar? You talked about you had written some blogs about your case studies. All of that, if you can shed some light on.
Yes. So regarding regarding Kaggle, like it's not like that I've worked a lot on Kaggle competitions or Kaggle notebooks as such. But yes, like whenever I got time, or whenever I thought that okay, this case study is interesting, or whenever I thought that okay, I can collaborate with these folks from different companies, I just try to catch up with them. And I always try to make sure is that even if you're not able to do much of Kaggle, then at least try to read people's codes. That is something that you can do to increase your knowledge, because there are hundreds of ways to solve a case study. So if you have one idea, maybe some other person has some better idea. Heard this advice from, I think, one of the Kaggle grandmasters as well. So obviously it's not possible for you to just score, become a Kaggle grandmaster. It takes it takes months. You cannot become a Kaggle grandmaster or Kaggle expert, Kaggle master on day one. If you are very novice to Kaggle, then at least start reading people's codes.
Right. Very, very good advice, Sohil. Thank you for that. Gauri here is also mentioning that she has been following the same and it helps a lot. Quick question to everyone. How many of you have been doing that? That on Kaggle, reading other solution and understanding, trying to relate that why is this better solution than others and what are the different ways. So, of course, strong advice to all of you, as multiple people re-emphasizing that it's a very powerful tool. Keep doing that. And generally, of course, we often, when starting on a new platform, we start thinking, how do I do the hardest thing on this platform first? Don't do that. You have to take the first steps. Take the easiest step, which is at least reading and consuming. And eventually, I do hope and wish that some people in this group also become grandmasters on Kaggle. It's a longer journey. It doesn't happen in few months. So Kaggle was one. What else did you explore?
I also explored, like in my initial journey of Scalar, I explored HackerRank. I also tried to perform like all these weekly and bi-weekly contests that come in league code. Obviously, I'm not saying that I'm as I said, I'm not a very good coder. I've never been a coder. So if I'm not able to solve any question, then the least I can do is at least if let's just say league code has that problem of the day. So if I'm not able to solve that question, at least I can spend 15 to 20 minutes on thinking that logic. And after that, maybe look on people's solutions. Maybe look on, even go to YouTube and search on that question. How this question has been done by other folks. So that way, that at least whatever you thought, at least accordingly you can build up from there.
So Gauri has a question, Sohil, which is: did you face any challenges in answering data analysis question? And similarly, like, were you asked more theoretical questions, kind of things which take a deeper dive into concepts under machine learning, supervised and unsupervised algorithm, deep learning, computer vision, natural language processing, etc. So first part, were you asked any data analysis question in any of your interviews as well for the data scientist role?
Yes. So like when I was giving my online test, there were 5 coding questions, and all those coding questions were of NumPy pandas. So it was like the data set is already pre-imported. I just had to apply like simple, NumPy pandas operations. So no challenges as such. I think the only challenge is just data analysis things just take time. You have to think from a business perspective, and if any such questions regarding with respect to business are asked to you, like questions related to product analytics, that takes time. Thinking with respect to RFM, and the technicalities are also there. I didn't have much problem in explaining machine learning and neural network concepts, because I have revised these concepts so many times that like these concepts are like second nature to me now. Especially like simple concepts of machine learning, like linear regression, logistic regression. I've seen these concepts not too many times now. It's just that you need to get your concepts very much cleared in these things, like in any algorithm, when underfitting happens, when overfitting happens. I think when what is bias variance trade-off. So I think if you're good with these concepts, then you should be good to explain these concepts as well. Computer vision is one thing that it is a bit difficult to start understanding things at first, that filters, what are filter sizes, what are the number of channels and all. So I think the best way to understand these concepts is to draw architectures of computer vision, like how an image is being going into a CNN, and accordingly, like what is the stride, what is padding. So these things are something that you have to.
Sohil, while like I will ask you, and maybe Sunil, you can also add on to that. Sarmishta has asked a question that I have been working as a technical lead and subject matter expert for more than a decade in a technology Lotus Notes, which would be obsolete in IBM in some time. Hence, I'm trying to reskill in the domain of data science. Should I opt for data science or data analyst? For data science, apart from Python, ML model, SQL, a bit of knowledge in cloud, is anything else required? Especially Gen AI, like Soil, anything that you would like to add from your experience at Brillio?
Personally, I think I would recommend data science to you. I think you're mentioning that you have some of your knowledge in cloud as well. So I think data science would be right for you. Regarding Gen AI, I think, see, generative AI is something that, okay, it's a good thing that all these LLMs and multiple other things are coming up. It's a good thing. But my strong suggestion would be first focus on your fundamentals. Okay, you cannot hope to learn the complex things unless you don't have your fundamentals ready. You must have heard about this, Chat GPT. So you know what is GPT, right? GPT is generative pre-trained transformer. How this GPT has come up? It has come from transformer itself. So unless you don't know transformer, you will not be able to understand GPT. What is LLM? LLM is large language model. So before that, you should know what is a language model, right? You should know that how this language model has come up. So these things will come up in NLP. Don't compromise on your basics.
Thanks for that, Sohil. Samishta, I will also add that to build a strong career in the domain of data science, the first building block is a strong command on Python and SQL. Like as Sohil says, these are the easiest things to learn in these domains, right? I would not say that it is trivial even yet, because you have to have a strong command on those. But first focus on those. Once you have built that, then learning these various ML models, algorithms, let's say deep learning models, etc., comes as the second stage. Gen AI probably is the last stage. I would say it's just the beautiful showcase of everything that is behind. So you have to first build everything that in the back end of it. Gen AI is just the beautiful hoarding that we all can see as an end consumer.
I have one thing to add regarding Gen AI. So there is, see, one issue with Gen AI is that people are these days, there are many people who have a lot of technical competencies and they're able to build their own LLMs. Now the problem is that, if let's just say 1 month ago we have this Llama 2, now Llama 3 has come up, and Llama 3 has a lot of advantages over other, LLMs. Like there is direct preference optimizations and there are a lot of other things. So the thing is that, as LLMs keep building up, lot of your efforts from the user side will also keep changing on. Because initially, so if let's just say that initially when OpenAI released their ChatGPT, we needed to learn prompt engineering techniques a lot. Now these techniques, reliability on these techniques have somehow reduced a bit. So that's the thing. And if you ever get a chance to look at OpenAI's original documentation on fine tuning, they themselves say that fine tuning techniques we are also like we will also keep updating with time. So these things are something that you just have to stay updated with them, but you need to focus on your fundamentals first. As long as you have your fundamentals extremely sharpened, you don't need to worry about anything else.
Next question is related to master's programs. Saga's question is that do you think that pursuing masters under Scalar University would help in terms of job hunt? Not sure whether you are part of masters or not, but in terms of hiring process, like I'll give a quick answer that guys, employment is not a function of piece of paper or the degree that you have. Employment and career success is about the knowledge that you build. Interviewer is not going to prioritize someone who has a degree even if the person has inferior skills. It's a wrong narrative that exists in our country for some reason. Skills always triumph. Master's degree might be helpful for people who have no prior tech higher education at all. But that also does not help with clearing the interviews. Interviews you have to clear. This is your own skills. But yeah, Sohil, any thoughts on this that you might have?
I haven't pursued masters from Scalar, so I don't know about that. Luckily, the Scalar course itself was enough for me to get a job. So Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, again, I will re-emphasize that do not see degrees as alternative to skills. And if you have skills alone, that is enough. Generally, anyone who is finding it hard, it's a only function of two times, skills and patience. This combination is always enough to help you make a good career. Rahul has a question that how much time did it take you to get your first offer in data science from the time when you started learning data science?
Like whatever tenure scalar journey has, that exact time. Like when I still remember, like when I was in my last module in my scalar, at that time only I got my offer from Brillio.
No, so again, it's again rooted in that it is not about the tenure, but again about the skills. Because before you could get a job, you have to have built strong command on all the things that are being taught. Unless you have learned them, companies, it's impossible for companies to hire you. And similarly, not just hire you, but also how would you perform at the job if you have not learned the topics that companies seek. Shaikh Rahman has a question. Why are job posting for data scientists less compared to software developers on LinkedIn? Like statistical, like given you all are studying statistics and data science yourself. So I would ask this question that let's say if there are 2 million jobs of software engineers across the world, and let's say if there are say 1 million jobs of data scientists across the world. Basis this data alone, can we say where there is more demand from companies? Because another important parameter, which is the denominator, that how many people are there in the market who have these skills, that is missing in this data. Now, of course, if there are, let's say, if any company, let's say if I talk about Scalar itself, if there are 50 people in the software engineering, then 50 data scientists are not needed. Probably 5 or 10 data scientists are needed. That is what the nature is, right? But the thing is that for 50 software engineering roles, there might be 5,000 people applying. But for even 10 data scientist roles, there are probably only 20 applying, and out of them, 15 are do not even have the skills. So naturally, if you look at global number of jobs, they will be less for data scientists. Similarly, let's say if I talk about how many jobs exist for a neurosurgeon, the number of jobs for neurosurgeons are going to be so less. But the fact is that the number of neurosurgeons in the market are even lesser. So those who are neurosurgeons, it's never hard for them to get a job. So there's no point comparing with the number of jobs of software engineering, because naturally they are always bound to be more. But the scarcity of talent is much higher in data science domain because it's a very new domain. Not many people have even studied that formally. Like for example, so many colleges have a BTech in software engineering or computer science. Rarely there are any colleges which are offering, let's say, BTech in data science dedicatedly. Recently, there are few colleges, let's say IIT Madras, etc., have started, but it's rather rare. Right? So again, worrying about absolute number of job is not needed. Sohil, anything that you would like to add there?
I think what Rahman is saying, like I've also seen it multiple times, especially like in foreign countries, the number of job opportunities for software developers are far more as compared to data scientists. Maybe I think one reason that I can think of is maybe companies are also trying to figure out as to what use cases that they can have for data science roles.
Suraj has a very good question, which is during the interviews, did you use your Medium blog post or GitHub to display your work? Was that used in the discussion? I know you had touched upon that, but I think it will be very interesting to if you can share more on that.
Yes, Suraj. So, in my like when I had my first tech round in my data science interview, so at that time, like the interviewer did ask me questions regarding my project. So at that time, like what I did is like whatever blog I written on my project, I just shared my blog link on. It was a Medium link, so that Medium link I just shared with my interviewer. So I think there are two benefits out of when you write your blog. One benefit is that, see, let's just say I made a project, let's just say 6 months ago. So there is no way that I can remember that complex project. Let's just say I made a project on computer vision. Okay, now computer vision is not an easy topic. I cannot remember that same project now. So what I can do is, at least if I can't remember that code, I can at least, by writing a blog, I can at least remember all the points, summarize points that I've done. Okay, I did this. This is the way I did my processing. This is the way I did my machine learning modeling. This is the model that I use. This is the object detection, image segmentation. This is the things I use. Second benefit is, if I'm explaining, side by side, the interviewer is also having that chance to look upon all the work that I've done. Since I've attached the snippets out of my code, I have one of my Medium blogs for my project. This project is like a project that I did in my during my scalar journey in a portfolio project. Maybe like you can have a look at this and you can get an idea. So this is the exact same case study that I shared during my interview. I still remember.
So guys, this is the blog article link Sohil has already shared. One, of course, immediately I would recommend all of you to read through this. More importantly, all of you should also write similar blog posts and share within our Scalar community and outside as well. It shows to the external world also that how passionate you are about data science. And as Sohil mentioned that today you have done that project and case study. After 3 months or after 6 months, you most likely it will be easy to forget some of the nuances of that. But if you have written a detailed article about it, when you are reading it again, you would be able to refer it back very easily, very quickly. Most times, most good interviewers, they would use this resource to even drive discussion with you, to ask you follow-up question on each sections. So this is a very, very powerful tool, right? I'll tell you 3 very unique things that it helps you with. It helps you revise easily, even after 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. That's one. It helps you build an online presence. If you have few such links added to your resume, it does make your resume look more attractive. Because the majority of the people will not put this effort. Any employer, I can talk about myself, that if I see a profile which has put all this effort, very high chances that I'll be more impressed by that profile. And third, it becomes a good discussion point in interviews very easily. A very, very powerful tool suggested by Sohil. Those of you who attended some of the previous sessions, you might recall many other alumni have also recommended, and they had shared that how having a portfolio, a public portfolio on internet, having blog articles, etc., definitely help them a lot during the interviews. So please put this effort. If you do, you will stand out of the crowd. Rajni has a question: how did you manage your time while you were giving the interviews, and given you were also in a job at that time? So, like, did the interview process put more time crunch on you? How did you manage that?
I focused on learning new things as well as I focused on revising the old things, right? In my interview, whatever things were asked to me, luckily I had gotten a chance multiple times to revise those things. With my, full-time job, it wasn't much of an issue. Obviously, like I had to go through them to, all those concepts multiple times. It wasn't just 1 or 2 times. So just, by going through these again and again, these things, when these things just become, second nature to you, so you can just easily, have a discussion with your interviewer.
I'm picking this question from Disha, which I think is important, that during the interview, if your concepts are clear, but you could not remember the exact syntax. One is, did that happen to you? And if yes, then what happens in such a situation?
Yes, it did happen to me, not in this company's interview, in a interview where I was not selected because of my MLOps thing. So at that time, see, syntax is something that, no one can remember. Okay. I think you can remember is import numpy, pandas, you can import mat.lib.pyplot as PLT, cbon. These things you can still easily remember. But obviously no person can ever remember, like, from which class did you import that confusion matrix? From where did you import that classification matrix, display things? No one can remember that. You can't remember all these plotly things, and also it is very much, I think in my opinion, it is very much okay to ask to interviewer first that, can I go to open source and can I refer online documentation just to see what the syntax for this library is. If you are ever getting a chance to share your screen while solving a business case, it is very much okay. If he says yes, then it's okay, of course.
In general, guys, I will re-emphasize that most good companies will never reject you just because you couldn't remember the syntax. Be very, very candid, honest about it, that here is the logic, here is the concept, I am explaining that. You can use representative syntax. If they want you to write precise code, sometimes even asking that, can I Google for the exact syntax? Some interviewer might say that it's okay, you can just write representative syntax and I'm okay with that. Or they can say that, fine, you can go ahead and Google. But generally, no good interviewer will reject you only because you cannot remember the syntax. As long as conceptually you are sound and you are able to make logical decisions and steps on it, that is enough. Because see, even on the job, when you are writing code, you are not supposed to write everything from memory. You are free to use Google, you are free to use tools, you are free to even use tools like ChatGPT, right? So it's absolutely okay. Disha has another follow-up question. Could you please share your resume also? Sohil, would you, by any chance, would you have that handy or a link that you can share?
I don't have a link but I have a document open. Maybe I can share my screen
Sure,
and
sure. You
maybe
can
they
share
can
your
take a
screen.
screenshot.
Absolutely.
So I can do that. So yes, so this is my resume. So it's the template is the one that Scalar has in their career portal. Maybe you can take a screenshot.
Anil has a question. How did you handle probability and statistics module?
I think my advice would be to first focus on your fundamentals. First focus on your concepts. If you have never learned probability, if you have never learned statistics. So luckily, like I studied these concepts when I was doing my college, and obviously, like I think most of us have gone through these probability statistics concepts even when we were in class 11th and 12th. In Scala, I didn't have much difficulties. I think just go through your concepts and just keep on practicing, because in your expert mock interviews I can tell you, like, they will not ask you what is Bayes theorem, can you give me the formula for Bayes theorem. They will only give you real life question and you just have to solve them out. And I think the only difficulty that a person can face in probability and statistics module is the hypothesis testing and Z test and T test and all. Yeah, just focus on them. So I think that you should be good.
Kartikeya has a question which is, I think, very commonly discussed question these days, that how do you think ChatGPT 4.0 has changed the data analysis function? Sohil, have you seen any impact or any interesting change coming in from GPT 4.0 in the work so far?
It's a good thing that these things are coming up. Okay, people need to see how these things will change things up, but I mean, it's not like that they will have a sudden change. So I don't think I can comment on that.
No, and I think more importantly, even 4.0, as we see that it's a very nice, shiny end product. But behind that, end of the day, it is a lot of probability, statistics, or NLP. That is what is powering it, right? Computer vision. So basically, one of the biggest things that they built in GPT 4.0 was the multimodal input. That at the same time, it can have video input, text input, and audio input at the same time. Combine them and respond to that in real time, which starts making it be very much human-like. Right? Otherwise, it was that either I can only chat, or I can only upload a photo, or I can only say something. But let's say, for example, when two humans are interacting, we can have a watch on what is being written, what is being spoken, and what we see at the same time. Suraj has a question on resume. Tips on resume specifically. Is it better to have one-page resume, or is 2-3 pages also okay?
I think one page is fine, Suraj. That's what I think. Maybe max like 1.5 is still okay. You're mentioning a lot of things on your projects, then better mention it on your GitHub instead of your resume.
No, so again, I will re-emphasize. See, resume is showcase of your skill. So if someone doesn't have skill, if someone has not built projects, if someone doesn't have knowledge, no matter which format, which template of resume you use, it will not help. But then is, if you have done some meaningful, if you have built meaningful skills, if you have done some meaningful projects, and if you put it across 2-3 pages, the risk is that something important that might have caught attention of a hiring manager or recruiter, it can easily get missed. Because if there is more noise, typically a recruiter or a hiring manager will be barely spending less than a minute on a resume. One pager resume, if you make it crisper in one pager, what it ensures is that the chances of someone missing it is very, very low. Sometimes a lot of people do not even scroll behind one page. So anyway, whatever you are writing in second or third or fourth page is not even going to be seen, right? So from that point of view, having at least one version of resume, which is one pager, is absolute necessary. If you are someone who has a lot of experience, let's say someone who have 10, 15, 20 years of experience, then keeping a secondary version, which is more a detailed worksheet, is okay. So you send a single one-pager resume. You can mention that if the potential employer wants a more detailed journey, there is a separate document that you can share on that. But in the first go, sending one-pager resume is always best, because in one page you can make sure that whatever are the most important highlights of your career journey do not get missed by anyone. If you directly send a longer document, there's a risk that someone may end up not even having noticed that. So Pranav's question is on the recall/revision strategy. I am forgetting my previous modules. How do you recall it? By rewatching lectures or by solving problems and notes? So across these three, which work best to you? Resolving assignments, referring to your notes, or rewatching the lectures?
Resolving your assignments will never work because your assignments in the scalar can only cover a part of the entire process. So if let's just say I'm studying linear regression, okay, maybe one question on assignments can only be regarding the loss functions only. It might not cover the entire things, right? So the best way is to, like, it's a one-time effort, but you have to do it, in my opinion. Watch the entire recordings and make proper notes, handwritten notes. And when you start going on, when you are near your interviews, just, keep revising your notes again and again until you are very much familiar with them.
Vikram has a question. There are many Python and SQL questions to practice, but is there any particular set of questions to practice that can be asked in the interviews more commonly? Vikram, I will have first layer of opinion on this, and I'll then let Sohil answer as well. That in the interview preparation, it is never a good strategy to hope that they will ask you a question that you have already solved. It's a very risky strategy for two reasons, I'll tell you. One is that no matter how many problems you solve with the hope that the same question will get asked in the interview, in the world of technology, there can always be a variation that you have not seen before, right? So rather building the ability that you can think on your feet, ask clarifying question to the interviewer, and fundamentally solve the problem in the interview itself, developing that is necessary. The moment we start thinking that let me solve this problem and try to memorize it in the hope that the same will be asked in the interview also, you are putting in on a lot of risk. Second very common mistake happens when we think that it's the same question that I have solved before, that you will blurt out the solution or answer that you had done before. Even if let's say there is 5 or 10% variance in the problem, you will not realize it because right now your mind has switched into that I have seen this problem, I know the answer, so I'll just give the answer. And then it is the wrong answer to the question that was actually asked. So never even think that it's a question that I have seen before. Even if you feel like, just try to solve it again in the interview how you would have solved it if you were solving it for the first time. One more important interesting thing that I'll tell about interviewer mindset, because I have been taking interviews, I have gotten trained to take an interview in my previous jobs also. Unlike an exam where your marks are based on that you are given a question, you write an answer, if answer is right, you get the marks, right? In interview, it is not the answer that only matters. The interviewer wants to see what is your approach to solve the problem, right? Do you ask follow-up questions? When you are solving the question, you have to keep saying what you are thinking. So interviewer trying to see your thinking process, right? Again, when you start just giving the answers, the interviewer has lost opportunity to see your thinking process. If they only wanted to see whether you can give the answer or not, they could have given you online test again. They never needed to get on a call with you to see your thinking process. So that is my answer, that try to build an ability that you can comfortably break down the problem, understand the nuances quickly, even if needed, ask follow-up question to the interviewer to build more clarity on the problem being asked and solve it in the interview itself. Sohil, anything that you would like to add?
I think whatever you said, Abhimanyu, makes a lot of sense, especially that advice of yours that you said that, keep saying whatever your thoughts are during the interview. That has personally helped me a lot during many of my interviews. And there is no set as such, there is no fixed it's question paper as such that you can say that, okay, which questions will come on Python, which questions will come on SQL. But you can revise whatever concepts are being asked the most. And accordingly, like, you can practice on them and maybe you can get a different variation out of it. But yeah.
Question is from Shashank, that how much of your past experience in the telecom domain helped while you were transitioning into data science? So was there anything from your telecom experience that you feel added to you? And then I think rest is mostly elaboration on the same. But yeah, Sohil, did you feel that your telecom experience added some value to the new job?
Yes, for the most part, it didn't. Because like whatever knowledge, like whatever like I was checked on during my interview, I learned all those things from Scalar itself. So nothing as such was asked regarding with respect to my previous organization. The only experience I think I had with respect to my previous organization was with respect to Tableau. I had some experience with Tableau, like around 1 or 2 months with respect to some specific projects and some hands-on on Python.
To that which sometimes get unnoticed, goes unnoticed, which is the professionalism, the communication, the ability to explain in crisper words, which does get developed if you are working at any good corporate role. So Shashank, I think that always adds value. But of course, when you are applying for a very hard tech role, then unless there is some relevant work you had done in the past, it will not be counted. But your professionalism, your communication abilities, your ability to coordinate with a team, etc., definitely adds value. Sometimes it goes unnoticed, but it does, because in the interviews, the way you are able to hold yourself, the way you are able to explain things, often those are developed during your past work experience. You are able to do that because you had the past work experience. So make sure that you are solving problem in the interview. You are not answering the question. Difference is between problem and solution versus question and answer. In an interview, there are no question and answer. There are problems and solution, and you are supposed to solve the problem. And the reason is because at the job, you will be doing the same. You don't have to give answers to questions at the job. You have to solve problems at the job. That is what companies are looking for in the interviews as well. Question from Piyush, which is, I have been asked this question from multiple different persona. What if someone is not enjoying data science or data analyst job? How to still get that upskilling? This is asked by a HR in behavioral round. Piyush, first I will just make sure that I clarify the question. Is your question more related to someone in the team who is not enjoying the thing, and you are asked that how would you motivate the person to about that? Or are you asking in your own context that I am not enjoying the data science related domain? But see, if it is about individual, being in a domain is like discovering curiosity and discovering passion on the domain always becomes a very big indicator of you being able to succeed in the domain. So instead of trying to justify, I think best is picking up certain data science related projects which look very exciting and enthusiastic, like where you can feel enthusiastic. Data science, interestingly, is a domain which cuts across every field. Let's say if you are passionate about sports, you can use data science to solve something related to sports. If you are, let's say, passionate about solving civic problems, how do you make your cities better? The traffic congestion problem can be solved using data science in some ways. If you are passionate about environment, data science is heavily used to solve a lot of environmental problems, right? One part is finding that the why, that what are the things that I'm passionate about and how can I use these skills to solve those problems. That automatically makes you very curious and passionate about it, right? So that is important. Without that, I think you will only be doing very, it's not a happy place to be at, where you are doing it just because someone will pay me money for it. While money is important, but you cannot go on like that. And I hope that my answer also answers the second part, that if you have someone in the team who feels not passionate about the domain, how can you make them passionate? It's about helping them discover something that they feel very, very driven about, and then help them solve something in that domain using the tools at hand, right? So in both the question, I hope this answers the question. Okay, let's go take this question from Bhima Shankar, that could you suggest a path to make online presence, like where to start first, how much time to invest daily? Any advice on this, Sohil, that how can someone make a profile online which positions them as a serious, enthusiastic data science professional?
I do have an answer for that. So see, obviously, like building your online presence using Kaggle and GitHub is a very good thing. Okay, like it shows that how much you are dedicated towards building your codes and how much you are dedicated to solving any business cases. But one thing that gets you hired is LinkedIn. And many people, like I have seen, that they don't create a very good profile on LinkedIn. So my strong suggestion, I think, will be if you ever get, just Google it out, how to create an all-star profile on LinkedIn. There's a thing called creating an all-star profile. So if you just Google it out. So even LinkedIn itself has a blog of its own. Like, if you follow these steps, you can easily fulfill all the requirements to create a all-star profile. And the thing with all-star profile is that an all-star profile gets more traction compared to the non-all-star profiles. So requirements of an all-star profile are basically that you should have a profile picture, you should have a wallpaper, you should have a description of whatever work you're doing on your past experiences, and all should be on this. So I think my profile is an all-star profile. I'm not sure, but but I can tell you, like, the moment that when I started fulfilling all these things for an all-star profile, my traction increased a lot compared to when I didn't do all these things. So that is one advice that I can give to everyone. Apart from that, one more advice that I can give is, so see, let's just say that, obviously, since all of you are, learning data science, machine learning. So you're learning things, that's also a good thing, but post about them as well. Maybe twice in a week, okay, or thrice in a week. Build a frequency. In that frequency, I'll post about these things. Or if you don't want to post about what you learned, maybe you can post about what you accomplished. Maybe you achieved some certifications. Maybe you achieved some badge on some certifications, or a badge on LinkedIn, or lead code, or hacker rank, anything. Post about something that shows that you are progressing somewhere. So that way, like, people will reach your profile.
I think writing articles, that whatever, let's say if you pick up an interesting project, an interesting case study to work on, write about that in detail. Just let's say sometimes, like whenever you are creating any content, think about that what can you write which will be very useful and value creating for the person who will be reading it. Let's say if you start writing very high quality guide articles on certain topics that you have studied, right? Then anyone who is reading it, it's a great learning experience for them. So your followership will naturally increase, right? So don't only solve for that, how do I get more likes, more followers? Solve for what content can I create, which will be very highly valuable for the people who will be reading that, right? There is also, how many of you have heard about Feynman technique of learning? Feynman was a very famous physics professor, and he has written very good books on how the best ways to learn. So Richard Feynman, yes, Suraj. So Feynman technique is about that your command on any topic, on any concept, substantially increases when you teach it to someone, when you explain it to someone, right? In today's world of internet, writing an article to explain something or describe something is a great way to teach itself, right? Because you will be writing it in a way as if you are explaining it to a 5-year or 8-year-old kid, right? Similarly, I think even in the scalar community, pick up maybe a small group of people, any concept that you think you have understood well, try to explain it to them. Doing that will increase your command on topic so much more, because when you are explaining, your command on topic automatically increases massively. Maybe Google about this Feynman technique as well. Writing high quality articles is a great way to practice Feynman technique of learning, and plus also helps you build a very strong profile. All right, guys, so that was the last question, and we are slightly beyond schedule. Thank you for staying back with all of us. I hope that you all found the session to be impactful. Thank you so much, Sohil, for giving back to our community, because, of course, collectively, a group of hardworking, intelligent people can do so much more than what we all could do individually. So thank you so much, and all the best to all of you. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Check out Scalar's masterclass by industry-leading experts only on Scalar's event page. Link is in the description below.